Hello from a warm winter's afternoon in South Africa. My name is Lorraine Jenks, a specialist in climate change and sustainability, and a huge thank you to Elaine for this invitation to address the Ethical Culture Society. What an honor to address the people who really will understand what I'm talking about. So here we go. Climate, ecocide, and sustainability. Can we influence what comes next? We're going into a gunfight with a fly swatter. We're trying to put out a forest fire with a water pistol. And this is what we're leaving our children. Time for action. I had a look on Google to get some definitions of ethical, and I stumbled upon this. Ethics as a vanguard. Ethics, in fact, should lead everything. Any action on climate change confronts serious ethical issues of fairness and responsibility across individuals, across nations, across generations, and the rest of nature. Climate change is one of the most challenging issues facing the world today. Gardner. So here's the news. I just had a look over the last couple of weeks at what's happening around the world. It is terrifying and it's getting worse. And America, you really have had the worst of it. Fires on the West Coast, the bootleg fire, it blazes at the same time. The floods in Germany. China had the highest temperature since records began. Your building collapsed partly due to climate change and the changes in the structure, the underground structures. First ever extreme heat warnings in the United Kingdom. And Hoover Dam, I mean, look at that amount of water that's evaporated. The polar vortex is like an elastic band that stretches. It's getting too hot. Usually it just circulates cold air around the North Pole, but it's getting too hot and it's bending, and that cold is reaching further south. It's releasing more carbon than it's holding. Irreversible tipping point. We're getting warned about this all the time. That means once we reach that level, we cannot go back. It's just going to continue getting worse. We still have time. And another heat dome was coming to the States. And this was the one that frightened me the most. I've been to Death Valley. It's very hot. So, of course, this will be one of the hottest places. But that temperature is a temperature we cannot live. Humans cannot survive in that temperature. So it's almost like reading the book of Revelation. And we're all saying it won't happen to me. It will. It happened to me in 1 week, all in less than a week. I was in Cape Town giving a talk, and we had what we call a monster storm. They come about once a year, but sometime this year, it was so bad that there was no way you could stand up. It was knocking people over. They had to come in. People came into our hotel to spend the night. You could not drive a car. Airplanes couldn't take off. I was stuck in my hotel for 2 days and 2 nights. And that very same night, a friend phoned me from Nisa, which is a forested area on the coast, to tell me her house was burning down. And she was trying to get down to the beach in her car, picking up a lady with 2 parrots and a dog on the way. Cape Town, a couple of years before, had 0 water. I mean, Cape Town is a beautiful, huge, modern city. No water. That is a spring where people were collecting water to take home. My daughter that year was in France. It was so hot that instead of sightseeing, they were looking for ponds and fountains to cool down. And that winter in New York, people were told to stay in their hotels because it was too hot to go sightseeing. So today we're going to talk about COVID versus climate and ecocide, the choices we make. In fact, our future is going to be the future we choose. Adapt or die, some tips on the research I've done. And then everyone always said, what must we do? So I've got a little list of what they must do and what we must do. So I have two online directories. They're like yellow pages. They're free to use. We don't make any money. We don't sell anything. We just register products. I was in the hotel industry for 15 years, doing all the procurement for South Africa's actually biggest hotel chain of 82 hotels. And I shared what I had learned in those 15 years on a website, just a list of the people that I dealt with, the suppliers I dealt with. And I left the company because they refused after all those years to listen to me about being more aware of, in those days we called it going green. And I moved to Cape Town. Al Gore's movie came out, An Inconvenient Truth. And I already knew who had green or the greenest I could find products. Nothing is 100% green. And I launched a second website to back onto the first one. And that lists only the eco-friendly products on the main directory. We get 33,000 people use them every month. I can't believe it. These are buyers looking for products. We don't sell anything or take commission. And it's 21 years old this month. We never, ever dreamt it would grow as it did. It was supposed to be a hobby when I retired and moved. And then the hotel started calling me back, saying, what? And I said, gee, guys, I've been telling you 15 years. And this is the story. So I would teach. I'm a teacher by profession, a Montessori teacher. And I realized hoteliers need to see, touch, and feel what I was talking about. So in a moment of absolute madness, my bookkeeper and I booked 100 square meters at one of the big trade shows. And we asked the people from the green stuff directly to send us products to display. And we furnished the top left, a mock hotel from front to back with everything eco-friendly, every single product on display, a bedroom, a dining room, a lounge, a kitchen, a bathroom. Bottom left was a house. It was 5 bedrooms that only shows one area, furnished from front to back with only eco-friendly products. And the bottom right is a tiny home, completely off the grid. So here are some of the things. The bedroom, for example, not a single piece of plastic. Everything on that bed that you wear, the sheets, the pillowcases, the pillows, the whole bed, everything was made with natural products. In the lounge, bamboo furniture, wall carpeting, hemp upholstery, for example, VOC paint. In the kitchen, bamboo flooring, energy efficient appliances, a gas stove, VOC-free paint, non-toxic chemicals, organic food, FSC certified wood, everything as green as we possibly could find. Around the back, we had little models of all the renewables for the dads to have some technical stuff to look at. And we even had a hybrid car parked around the back, all done free of charge, used my pension money and the kindness of Greenies. Everybody came to help us free of charge. And we've since won 20 awards for several of these projects, my speaking and the websites, all of that. Since I turned 69, I'm 78 now, and those 20 awards are in the last 9 years when I should be retired and knitting baby booties. So out of that, started a speaking career, nothing ever planned, nothing I ever dreamed of doing. I started consulting, and of course the projects that I'm talking about. These are some of the speaking engagements around the country. And since lockdown, absolutely phenomenal spike in awareness. It is so encouraging. I've been doing this for 50 years. Started my journey when I worked for the EPA in California in my hippie days when I visited the States. And I've been begging on about climate and sustainability and going green for 50 long years. And finally, they are finding people like me and asking us to speak. This is one of the greenest hotels in the world in Cape Town. So if ever you go, ask for a tour. In the front here, those are wind turbines. There's geothermal, there's solar. There's geothermal underground. There's photovoltaic. There's a natural pool around the back. Every single thing in that hotel is as green as they could find, even the food, the cleaning chemicals, and the lift. And what we do is we walk through a property with you. It can be a hotel, a home, an office, a school, and we just point at things and say, and we never say you've been bad. We say next time you need a new carpet, have a think of these, 1, 2, 3. Next time you need to paint, have a think of different paint. Next time you need an appliance, have a look at some of these. There is always a better version. And what we're going to talk about today, parallels between COVID and climate change. I think COVID is a dress rehearsal for climate change. We are being taught slowly and gently what's coming and getting to practice, adapting and surviving. So the versus the virus and climate change. The similarities, both of them have given us advanced warning and we didn't listen. Both of them have people who deny and believe conspiracy theories. Both are showing up social inequality. Both are proving food shortages. Both are saying the cure is worse than the problem. Neither of them know any borders, and both of them are deadly. The differences. COVID has a vaccine, no vaccine for climate. COVID is reversible. Once we reach tipping point, climate is irreversible. COVID had very clear strategies. Climate has no clear strategies yet. Mitigation was aggressive and immediate for the virus, much too slow for climate change. The action for the virus was almost immediately global. Action for climate change is still regional. Pollution during COVID decreased. It just continues to increase regardless for climate change. Economic recovery, yes, certainly already starting for COVID. No, not possible for climate change. Can it be avoided? Of course, the virus can be avoided. Almost now impossible to avoid climate change. All we can really do is arrest it and slow it down. Biodiversity during the lockdown stages was greatly improved. Biodiversity is being destroyed as we speak with climate change. And can it kill? Yes, of course. The virus kills humans. Climate change kills everything. So what frightens you the most? What do you think about at night that frightens you for your children 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Some of these things. Globally, these are 6 of the biggest. 4th Industrial Revolution, 6th mass extinction, artificial intelligence. Interestingly enough, my son is a doctor of physics. He's quite concerned about AE. And then we're talking today about climate change and ecocide, and we've just discussed COVID. So what is climate change? I think most of us here today know what climate change is. We know the science, the 101. The sun beats down on the earth, we take all the warmth that we need, and what we don't need bounces out into outer space again. The trouble is, the greenhouse gases are creating a blanket around the earth, and that excess heat can't bounce out. And it's just slowly warming the temperature a little more every year. The causes are the burning of fossil fuels, agriculture, overfishing. There are so many things that we can actually mitigate, that can actually stop if we just put our foot down and say so far and no further. And the impacts are disastrous. There are flooding, drought, migration. We haven't begun to see the migration caused by famine. The movement of insects. You know, there's a thing called a botfly that lays its eggs under your skin in Zimbabwe. We never had them in South Africa. But insects are moving away from the heat, and we've got them in South Africa now. And even wild animals in our huge, beautiful safari camps, they need to move south in the southern hemisphere. Animals need to move north in the north, away from the equator, up to 14 feet every day. What is ecocide? Ecocide is ecological collapse, capitalism. We insist on economic growth every year. That is actually the ideology of a cancer cell. We are consuming natural resources without stopping to think. And once we wreck the food chain of something, the entire chain collapses. Once we lose the bees, we will live for 3 years because our crops won't be able to be pollinated. Carbon targets, huge. The IPCC report just came out, the most recent one, saying we have to reduce CO2 by 50% within the next 9 years. We have to have zero emissions by 2050. That is a big ask. And finally, I think some of the governments are waking up and really trying. And of course, the Paris Agreement is saying if the temperature goes more than 1.5 degrees above what it was before the Industrial Revolution, we're in big trouble. So that is the other target that we're trying to keep. Quit the hype. There is so much going on at the moment that people are overwhelmed and they're throwing up their hands in cognitive dissonance and saying, I can't do anything. I'm just going to live my life. All these words, these jargons and these cliches, carbon sequestration, neutral capture, pollution, carbon budget, carbon offsets, what do they mean? All these symbols people need to learn. The SDGs, every company should be following the SDGs. LCA, we'll talk about that just now. ESG, environment, social, and governance for any investments. The IPCC report I've just mentioned now. So the choices we make, the circular economy, this is the new catchphrase, the trending jargon that I've been teaching actively for 35 years and practicing most of my life. We used to buy something, use it, throw it away. Then for a while, we bought something, we recycled it, which is really a bit of a myth and a bit of a hoax, and then we threw it away. And now the circular economy tries to keep something in circulation for as long as possible by using it again. So we used to have recycle, reduce, reuse. Now we have all these extra things: rethink, refurbish, and reduce, repair, reuse, recover, refuse, remanufacture. Conscious consumption. We have to look at conscious production and conscious consumption. Mostly, people will look at your carbon order. They will look at your energy, which you must measure and reduce, your water use, measure it and reduce it, and your waste, start recycling and being more responsible about the waste. I worry about everything else. This is the area that is very badly neglected. All your appliances, everything you use every single day has an impact on the environment. So stop and think. Stop and think about the life cycle. LCA means life cycle assessment. Where did it come from? How far did it travel? What happened during its manufacture? How did it impact on the people and on the environment? What kind of transport was used? How was it packaged? What happens when you're using it? Does it continue to pollute? Does it cause allergies? And most important of all is, how do you get rid of it? Can you put it back into that cycle, or will it just simply get thrown away? So choosing the most compliant is what I specialize in. Always just use the greenometer. Nobody can be 100% green. Just do the best you can. Take little baby steps and start somewhere. This is a very basic score sheet, which goes through to a very complicated, sophisticated template that does the sums for you, that I'll share if anybody's interested, where you just put in the product, you put in the credentials that you're looking for, and it does sums for you, and it tells you which of 3 or 4 products is the most compliant. Very seriously, being considered very seriously by many industries now. Thank you, at long last. So you look at energy, water, waste, transport, packaging, slave labor, pollution of the water, pollution of the air, child labor, right through to allergies that it causes, toxins, through to disposal, and give it a grading from very weak to excellent, and match one product against the other. What I sometimes do when I've got 2 products, neither of which is particularly green, take a bed, for example. A bedding company will phone me and say, I've got a green bed, and I'll say, wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's got a bamboo cover. And then I say, what about the rest? That foam inside, off gases, we call that off gassing, when it releases toxic fumes when you're sleeping on the bed at night. But it doesn't matter. The fact that he's got a bamboo cover, I'll put him on the website and I will say the only thing green is his cover. And what happens is the other bed manufacturers see this and they say, you know something, maybe we should have something a little more green than he's got. Adapt or die. Adapt and thrive, or adapt and die. Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. We can't continue only looking at mitigation and reducing CO2 levels. We have actually got to start evolving so that we are going to survive to the inevitable changes. There's no point in being negative. If we're negative, we're going to throw up our hands and say, I'm not even going to bother to try. There are many, many, many things we can do to make our future better and to make us, our future for our children a little bit safer. So I run an entire workshop that I actually developed for tourism in Africa, because Africa is going to suffer more than most other continents, thanks to the greedy, spoiled people in the Northern Hemisphere. The poor people in Africa are suffering already more than anybody else. And our temperatures are going to rise more here than elsewhere. So we stand back and we look at the city. Is your city prepared? Has it looked at its water running off? Can the water be absorbed into the ground, or does it just run off into the stormwater drains? Have they started planting trees? Look at your building. The green building, join a green building society. They're doing absolutely incredible stuff to create green buildings. Some of them are self-cooling and self-heating. Have a look at your factory and your entire supply chain. Are you ready for what happened during lockdown, when suddenly you couldn't get chips, computer chips from China, and motor manufacturers like Honda had to stop production? You need alternatives, and you need to know exactly where everything comes from. Agriculture must be turned upside down. I am jumping for joy because the EPA in America is saying it might ban Roundup. Roundup is killing people. People are getting cancer. America and South Africa are two of a very few countries that still use glyphosate, which is made by Monsanto and is sprayed on mostly maize and wheat crops. It's killing the people. It's banned in 38 other countries. Look at your pantry. Look at your emergency pantry and look at your emergency kit, and then stop and think, whether it's your office, whether it's your factory, whether it's your home, whether it's your school, you need a pantry and an emergency kit, and you need two kinds. You need one for if you're stuck at home, but you also need a different one for if you have to get out and survive in the open. So the question at the beginning was, can we influence what comes next? No. But we can lessen the suffering. If we focus on what we want and how things should be, that is what happens. That is how we will create our own future. There's a small town in England now, where when they started it from scratch, and everything they built, bought, developed, manufactured, designed, they didn't look at what it was and what it had been before. They looked at what would be the nicest version of this in the future. And that's what they built. Easy to do. It's just a different way of thinking and seeing things. The two things are sustainability, and now the new phrase is regenerative systems. Thank heavens. I've always had a problem with sustainability. To me, sustainability means sustain. Keep things the way they are. Do not harm. Leave it as it is. Regenerative means leave it better than it was before. It's not about less, it's about more of the things that matter. It's not only about what we are against, it's about what we are for. Just a shift in mindset. And the best advice you're going to get from me today is speak to the old folks. Speak to the old folks. They know stuff. My mom never built a house. She was a landscape gardener or started a new garden until she found the oldest person in that area and asked them what was the worst weather they'd ever experienced. Her house that was built next to a river, she said to the oldest person, where have you seen the water rise? He said, ma'am, right to here. So my mother built her house there. And she was the only house that wasn't flooded because the municipal flooding records meant nothing. And listen to their stories. Those stories weren't written yesterday. They are hundreds of years old, and they have something to tell us. Listen to them. So the choices, every time you buy something, do something, make something, you have a choice of doing it the old way. Nothing is 100% wrong. Nothing is 100% right. But there is always the better way. Find out what that better way is. And these are all the things they tell us to do. Shower with a friend, don't get plastic, use LEDs, go vegan, put in solar, ride your bicycle, but that's not enough. What they must do, you must hop and nag and ankle bite. They must increase carbon tax for the people that are polluting, not the man in the street. Renewable energy everywhere, regenerative agriculture, rehabilitate the forests, capture carbon. This is a bit controversial at the moment. Bill Gates is working on this. We're not terribly sure, and sadly, because people are seeing that as a solution, we're not terribly sure it will work. And geoengineering is a little bit like science fiction. You know, we can't experiment with seeding clouds to reflect the heat back out into space until we know the impact on everything else in the weather cycles and the jet streams. And what we must do, all the usual stuff, fly less, eat less meat, refuse plant divest, but sign petitions. They really do work. Petitions like a vase. They have, we stopped glyphosate in baby foods in South Africa just by signing a petition. And sponsored people like Greenpeace. There are so many people out there doing wonderful work. They need money. If you've got any spare money, sponsor them and boycott. A shampoo was quite quietly was boycotted for a short while. Within weeks, that company changed the recipe for that shampoo. And of course, vote. Vote for the people who are going to look after you. And that's me. Thank you. It's been lovely to talk to you. Please tell your friends, tell your church, tell your school, tell your company, tell your government, tell anybody. If they want me to talk about any of these topics or food, or I specialize in sustainable supply chain and the circular economy, please give me a shout. info@hotelstuff.co.za. ZA is for South Africa. Thank you. Good luck. God bless. Take care and stay safe. Thank you.